Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Galaxy. Today, we're looking ahead 2019. What with the amendment to the Electoral Act and, of course, the election sequence for 2019, it has generated lots of comments and controversies, and, of course, a walkout at the Senate just last week. And with us, we have I was going to say lawmaker. We have a lawyer who will be looking at this subject matter with us this morning.
And of course, and that's the person of Amended, a legal practitioner. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Galaxy today.
Good morning, thank you.
Okay, so good to have you around.
Right.
All right, we're looking at the amended 2019 election sequence. I mean, there was a meeting that held on Wednesday last week, and then there's a whole lot of I like to use the word hula baloo about it. Let's get it from your own angle. What you think about the amendment? Some people think is targeted against President Muhammadu Buhari, and Senator Saraki is like, that's not what it is. But from your own opinion, what do you think about the amendment?
For me as a person, I think I quite agree with the sequence of the arrangement.
Okay.
Because you see, in the time past, once you have the presidential election, first, you can predict the outcome of subsequent elections once you know who wins the presidential election. It's like a bandwagon because nobody wants to be in the opposition. Nobody wants to lose. So automatically, whoever wins the election, the presidential election, you can be sure that party, it's like everybody wants to flood in there. Nobody wants to be in the opposition.
But why would some lawmakers be of the opinion that it is targeted at the presidency? I mean, how does all of that correlate?
Well, for me, I do not see it as targeting the president. I think, because even the other elections are also very important. And I think for the first time, it will give us the opportunity to x-ray the candidate individually and vote for credible candidates in this coming election, notwithstanding what will happen at the presidential election. So I think it's now left for individuals to market themselves very well instead of hiding under the banner of, whatever happens at the presidential election, we dovetail into our electoral victory, whether we are competent or whether we are incompetent.
Okay.
Like in America, you see the Congress election, their legislative election comes midway into the presidential election. It's like halfway. So most times, I tell people, the performance of the president determines what happens to the legislative election, because the people will watch the president for 2 years and see how he's performing. And you can predict the outcome of the next election by their midterm election.
Okay, so I'd like us to react to this. I mean, according to a report here that in the proposal, lawmakers amended the 2010 Electoral Act by proving that the conduct of National Assembly election will hold first. Okay, moving forward, Omwagege disclosed that 59 senators are opposed to the inclusion of the insertion, adding that any attempt to override the president's veto will not see the light of day. And Adamu also displayed a copy of his conference report, which he said was not signed by chairman of the conference committee, Suleiman Nazif, and his co-chairman, Prayok Giyang. So it looks like that, from the eye of the law, it looks like whatever it is that went on is wrong, like there's no balance. I'd like you to react to that.
Well, for me, the procedure for passing a law, amending our laws, are very explicit. They are self-explanatory. Once the National Assembly follow due procedure, and if it follow due procedure and the president also assent to it, then that becomes the law. But for now, I do not know from what angle the other people are actually arguing.
They argue that, sorry Justin, I want to say something. They argue that whatever the amendment is all about is targeted at the president. And probably that some senators are supposed to be on seat before anything can be done. And so they felt that Saraki was being selfish and of course used some kind of high-handedness in this process?
For me, there were some senators who ought to be on seat that were not on seat. The question you ask yourself is, where have they gone to? How many days do they sit in a year that they will be absent for the legitimate business for which Nigerians are paying them millions of naira? For me, I think it's ridiculous. I'm not siding Saraki, I'm not siding anybody. But even that assertion itself is capital irresponsibility. When are you not supposed to be sitting to legislate over Nigeria? Then if you said you were not present on the day that a very important matter was being tabled and being enacted, passed into law, and you were not on seat, then you should ask yourself, what were you doing in the National Assembly? What were you there for? Were you not paid by Nigerians to make laws? And you are supposed to be present when the House is sitting.
Because other people have said that one of the reasons is that the president might not really be interested in how the other subsequent elections go after his own, or that the presidential election might have been done. Is there any truth to this?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a clairvoyant to know the mind of the president. All I'm interested in is any law that will empower Nigerians to be able to have impact on the quality of governance. That's all I'm interested in, because you can never progress as a nation when the people's vote does not impact directly on the pattern of those who emerge as our leaders, whether at the National Assembly, at the State Assembly, or at the presidential level.
All right, it's still Galaxy today. We will be joining Ibadan shortly, but we need to take a quick break, and also to remind you that you can be a part of this conversation. You can send an SMS to us if you have a question or a comment on the number that is now displayed on the screen, or interact with us via our social media platforms using the hashtag Galaxy Today. We'll be right back. Do join us again. Hold on. All right, welcome back. It's still Galaxy Today. If you've just joined us, we're looking at the amended 2019 amended election sequence, and we are moving straight now to Oyo State. We are being joined by Barrister Adeni Ajewole. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today. I want to really get your quick opinion concerning that the new change as regards the sequence the 2019 election would follow. Do you really think it's in the interest of Nigerians, or just some lawmakers who only have their own interests in mind? All right, I'll repeat that question. I want to get your quick reactions concerning the change. The House of Representatives and the Senate, they have adopted the new change in the sequence of the 2019 election. In your opinion, is it in the interest of Nigerians, or just some selfish interest of some lawmakers? What do you really think?
Very much. I thank you, the presenter. I've listened to what the gentleman over there has been saying, and I must confess that he has really hit the nail on the head. Now, these are clear issue of law, and what you will consider is the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as well as the Electoral Act 2010. Let us forget politics, because if some people say that the National Assembly position has some political undertone, that should be left for politicians to discuss. What concerns Nigeria is, one, the National Assembly, do they have the power to reorder the sequence of election? And two, of what benefit with such reordering be to Nigerian populace? Those are the two the main questions to be asked. The 1999 Federal Republic of Nigeria Constitution gives the National Assembly the power to make law for the good governance of the country. One of the laws is the Electoral Act, which empowers the Independent National Electoral Commission to organize, monitor and do other things concerning election in Nigeria. By section 25(1) of the present Electoral Act 2010, and I'm opening the session for Nigerian populace to hear this. The session provides for the sequence of election as follows. 1, which is A year, Senate and House of Representatives. B, presidential election, and C, state House of Assembly and governorship election. If the National Assembly now deem it feel that there is a need to reorder the sequence of this election, because when the INEC came out, they came out with their own sequence, which is the presidential election first, followed by the State Assembly and governorship, then followed by the National Assembly. By law, the National Assembly has the power to amend the Electoral Act. That is the first point I want to make. And secondly, what is the benefit? The man in your studio has said it clearly that this issue of bandwagon effect is not doing this country any good. We can take an historical, we can look at it from historical perspective. You will remember in 1979, the presidential election was the last to be conducted. That was 1979. But in 1983, when the National Party of Nigeria (NPN) was in power, they started with the presidential election. And in fact, that is when this issue of a bandwagon find its way to our lexicon. That was the first time we heard of this bandwagon effect. That was 1983. You will also recollect that during the Babangida political adventures, the State House of Assembly, the governors were already in place, even the National Assembly election was conducted before the presidential election was conducted in 1993. You will remember the June election of 1993. Even during the time of the second Abacha time, all other elections have been conducted, believing that it remains the governorship and the presidential. And even come to 1999, when we started using this constitution, the presidential election was the last to be conducted. It was in 2003 that the PDP government, then headed by Olusegun Obasanjo, reversed the order and started with the presidential election. And we now have what they call the bandwagon effect also. So I believe that having a presidential election first is not good for this country. Let's be sincere with ourselves. That is the law. It's not good. Because, like what the man said also, look at America. In many situations, you have their National Assembly already in place, and when a president comes in, he may even find a situation where the opposing party will have more members in the National Assembly more than his party. So I think it is good for the country that the thing be reversed, and I duly support the amendment bill being passed by the National Assembly. That is my take on this.
Reacts to this. I mean, as led by Abdullahi Adamu from APC Nasarawa State, they believe that the sequence of election is illegal and an attempt by lawmakers to usurp the powers of the independent National Electoral Commission. Do you think it is so? And then from the eye of the law, is it actually illegal?
That is, I've said it earlier. INEC is a product of the Constitution. Arrangement of election is governed by the Electoral Act. And which body has power to make law or amend the law? It is the National Assembly. INEC does not operate on its own in a vacuum. INEC does not have its own law being made. They operate within the law provided by the National Assembly. So it is this law, and in particular Section 25(1), that the National Assembly seeks to amend. So that is not, they are not overreaching anybody. They are not taking over the power of INEC. No, they are not. They are merely using the power given to them by Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended to make law for the good governance of Federal Republic of Nigeria. To me, to the best of my knowledge, the National Assembly has not in any way make any overbearing approach to, to erode the function or power of INEC. That is my position.
Many thanks to Barrister Adewale for joining us on Galaxy today to look at this change in sequence for the 2019 election. We do appreciate it. And back in Lagos, we still have Barrister Amended. Reactions are still trailing this decision. Some people, a cross-section of people, is saying that it's the best option to produce competent representation, that those against the new order want to hide under the winning team, which is not healthy for the nation. Do you agree?
Absolutely. That was the trajectory of my conversation from the beginning. I'm a student of Nigerian politics, and I'm conversant. Really, I'm conversant with the trend that each time you conduct the presidential election first, you can guarantee that whichever party wins, you will see even all the apparatus of government, institutions of states, will be working to favor that party because they won't want to be, as I would say it, working against a president you already know is coming into power. So all institutions of state, all the parties, all politicians will now begin to scheme to win on the platform of the president in waiting. Yeah. And it does not augur well for the society. So that's why I am in favor of this new order. It's like every man to himself and God for us all in this election now. So for the House of for the National Assemblies, it means you must go to the market and market your own credibility and integrity first. Market your intellectual capacity. You market your competence. You market your ideas. You market your ideologies. You market your philosophy. So we will have to look at you individually and decide, because that means this issue of we campaign, we don't campaign, we can win election, will no longer be the order of the day. Nigerians are getting wiser. I want you as my House of Assembly or National Assembly aspirant to come and sell yourself. Don't hide under any presidential bandwagon election. So it will give us the opportunity to extract critically, analyze them one by one, and come to a conclusion. So what you are going to find out along the line is that the National Assembly is going to be very rich from diverse background. It won't be a situation of, once the APC wins the presidency, the National Assembly will be peopled by APC members. So you are going to see a very robust National Assembly from Labour Party, from PDP, from APC, from Kowa Party, from Accord Party.
Or could it be a thing again that
then the byproduct will be that Nigerians will now have the opportunity to look at the party, because we are not held in the jugular. Who becomes our president? It's possible for a Labour Party man to become the president. It's possible. Because as at that time, you have National Assembly members from different backgrounds and all the rest of them. Everybody will be going to these streets to campaign for, oh, yeah, let's vote for this person, because nobody is going to hold the gun to your head that, you know, I'm the president, I can sabotage your election. You know, one of the things that happen is that once you elect a president, if I don't like your face, even in my party, it happened in Nigeria, where a sitting president worked against a member of his party from becoming a member of the National Assembly.
Could it be not unrelated? Could it not be unrelated to the fact that there is an alleged, crisis in the ruling All Progressives Congress? That's what we're having work at and all of that to this particular issue.
See, in politics, people have different perspective. People have different positioning, and they act in accordance with their conviction. Some will not see any benefit in this, probably because of politics. We have to stand and sync with our party. If they think it's not in the interest of their party, it shouldn't be a thing of surprise that they are working out. The most important thing is that the majority will have their way, and the minority will have their say.
Okay, speaking of that, I mean, there's a reaction here that with the enactment of the bill by the House of Representatives, the next stage is the presentation of the proposal to the president for assent. But they said, however, there are strong indications that the president will withhold his assent when the bill is eventually forwarded to him. Does he have the legal rights to do that?
He will, if he decides to veto it. The National Assembly also knows what to do when the president vetoes a power and the National Assembly wants to pass a law. There are rules of procedure. You can't veto the law forever. There are procedures to be followed. And if the National Assembly is bent on passing that law, they know what to do.
I see.
Yeah, they know what to do.
All right.
For me, and I do not think the president should veto the power. I mean, should veto the law. He should look at the big picture. Because I tell you, reordering that election is the best interest in taking into cognizance our political experience so far. Reordering that election is in the best interest of this nation. That bandwagon effect of whosoever wins the presidency automatically wins every other governorship election and every National Assembly election, it does not augur well for our democracy at all. At all. In fact, if you ask me, they should stagger the election. Let's have presidential election in 2019 and probably National Assembly election 2 years after, so that they are independent of each other.
Okay, but
because if the National Assembly people don't like the presidential candidate of their party, they can also work.
All right. I just wonder, in reaction to that, I mean, we said that the section provides, that's the section that if the president does not give in his assent, that from here, I said the section provides that where the president withholds his assent and the bill is again passed by each house by 2/3 majority, the bill shall become law and the assent of the president shall not be required. But the implication is that 73 senators and 240 members of the House of Representatives will be needed to actualize this.
Like I said, and like the other lawyer from brother said, you see, the National Assembly is saddled with the responsibility of making laws for the good governance of Nigeria. If in their wisdom, that's their constitutional role. They make the law, the executive is to implement that law, and the judiciary is to interpret the law if there is a conflict. So there is no argument as to whether the National Assembly has the power to make laws for the good governance. And they said in their wisdom, this is a law that they think is in the benefit of Nigerians. And I'm sure they have the capacity, they have the competence, and they have the wisdom and the wherewithal to navigate whatever be the bottlenecks that might be lying against the passage of this law. And I know they will creatively find a way and pass the law once it is what the vast majority of the lawmakers have decided to do. they will find a way of lobbying each other and pass it, or persuading those that are not seeing why they are doing it now. Because sometimes in passage of law, you need lobbying. You lobby, you persuade, you convince the other party. I don't have any evil intention against the president. We just think it is in the interest of Nigerians that we should no longer have bandwagon effect of once you win the presidency, everybody begins to kowtow whether the person is good or not good. They just vote all manner of people into the party and things like that. So once they are able to convince even other members who are not seeing the reason behind this law presently, as a question of time, before you know, a lot of people will keep cross-carpeting until they have the requisite number. Sometimes even in US and things like that, they pass a law and they see that, oh, the house is divided sharply, that the law may not pass. They take time, 2 weeks additionally, 1 month additionally, in persuading, holding caucus meeting, lobbying and all the rest of them, until they have the requisite number to pass the law.
Okay.
But for me, I think it's in the best interest of Nigeria.
All right, let us take some reaction before we go on another break. This one says, thank God for the National Assembly for this new development. Presidential election last nothing more. Hello, it is the truth that Buhari is going to come out. Okay, he's asking if Buhari is coming out in 2019. I can't say it for sure. I'm sure he will declare if he is coming out for 2019. Yes, I support the National Assembly. This one simply says, I said it is certain that Nigeria is in the hands of those cold senators. Even though the amendment of electoral laws is necessary, why not before? Why not before now? To many of us, it is a legislative coup. All right, more comments this time. I said we cannot continue to govern this country in isolation of the Constitution. If the 1999 Constitution says what the National Assembly has done now is fundamental, so be it. We are tired of bandwagon system of government. It's Friday Obo from Otogbo in Benue State. Okay, this one said that's the best option to produce competent representation. Those against the new order wants to hide under the winning team, which is not healthy for our nation. Presidential election should come last. A good decision for our country. Those selfish individuals that are refusing should rethink their ideas, and an individual is not a union. The law is for Nigeria, not for the president. He will not be in office forever, not even sure of 2019. So let us always support legislator. I don't understand this. This one says legislator Kingsley Udo from Cross River. All right, one says is the change of election sequence beneficial to Nigerians? He asked and he answered by himself. He says yes. All right, keep the comment and the questions coming, and we will be taking it. We'll take a very quick break. We'll be right back to come talk some more. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. It's still Galaxy today, and we're looking ahead 2019, amended 2019 election sequence. Like we said at the start of the program, you can still be a part of the conversation. Just send us a message on the number now being displayed on your screen, or interact with us via our various social media platforms using the hashtag Galaxy today. Lots of comments are still coming in, and we still have Barrister Ahmed Abbas with us here in the studios. One quick question before we take more comments. A member of the All Progressives Congress vying for governorship in Gombe State says he was actually warning members of the National Assembly who wants to alter the 2019 elections sequence that it will backfire and consume the lawmakers.
It will consume the lawmakers. Yeah.
Also,
yes, you don't need anybody to tell you that because of the political consciousness of Nigerians, the dynamics of election in 2019, the quality of candidate, it's going to be a different ballgame entirely. Nigerians are wiser now. The younger generations are getting more restive. They are getting more involved. They are agitating more. It means there's going to be more scrutiny. There are candidates by their very quality and intellectual capacity might not be able to sail through the scrutiny of the younger generation, because the youths are going to play a pivotal role in the next coming election. I can see their body language, their temperature, their mobilization, their involvement. I think they are just tired of the status quo. And so the coming election in 2019 is going to throw up so many things. There are lots of people that may not be coming back.
Okay.
There are many that are not going to be. So I quite agree with him that it will backfire. No, positively backfire. Okay. Because it's going to whittle down and sift men and women who do not have any business in the hollow chambers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Some of them will go back to their farm.
All right, Cynthia from Lagos is asking, I don't know if it's related, but she asked two questions in one. She says, please help ask your guest if a law could be backdated in order to make a conviction. Why the amendment after INEC released the timetable?
No, there are two. These are two different scenarios, so we must distinguish.
Okay.
You say in our law, a criminal law, you cannot pass a law to make an act an offense which at the time of its commission was not defined by any law as an offense. If for it, let me just create, if wearing white shirt on a Monday wasn't a law, wasn't an offense last Monday, you cannot come on a Wednesday and pass a law that wearing white shirt is not a criminal offense and that you are backdating it till last Monday. Okay. You can't do that under our law. Cannot. The issue of INEC timetable, you see, INEC is a product of law. It's like employing the service of a servant and giving him responsibilities to undertake. I, the employer, can come back and say, look, I gave you 7 assignments on Monday. I'm reducing it to 5. You can't say, no, you have given me that 7 assignments and I must carry out those 7 assignments whether you like it or not. Okay. The National Assembly, INEC is a creation of the law. And the National Assembly is saddled with the responsibility of making, amending. In fact, they can empower, in fact, they can add to the power of INEC or amend. Okay. Yes.
All right.
So long as it follows due process as laid down in the Constitution. Once they follow the due process, INEC is under obligation to obey the law as passed by the National Assembly.
Okay. All right. Kadri from Kogi State. I'm strongly in support of the bill. Individual candidates should go suckling their mothers. The president should campaign for himself, and senators and representatives should do same for themselves if the situation will help to redirect the minds of our people by not voting ignorantly. This one says, why did the National Assembly wait till when INEC announced timetable? You just answered that. Why did they not allow governor and state, governorship and state assembly first? What of cost implication by splitting it to 3? Let's even tackle that. Does it have any economic effect as per cost?
Yes, it has, because it has economic implication, because you see, when you stagger elections, you see, when election holds the same day, you use almost the same amount of staff and material to carry out the election. But if you stagger it, it means there are some logistics that you had used previously that you will have to employ again subsequently. So there's no way you won't incur cost. But for me, the cost implication cannot be compared to the socio-political value that it will have, because what we are talking about here is quality of governance. Look, a nation cannot develop beyond the quality of its governors, whether legislators, whether president. So whatever structure and system you need to put in place to help sift and ensure that only quality men and women occupy public offices, that cost, to me, should be insignificant, because our retardation as a nation, the level of stagnation that we have experienced to the extent of becoming a subject of ridicule in international community, is predicated on the low quality of leadership. No nation rises above the quality of its leadership.
Right.
No nation. So whatever structure, whatever system, whatever procedure, whatever law we need to pass to ensure that only men of great mind, great intellect occupy our public offices, whatever cost we need to pay, the nation should be able to pay.
Okay,
because we have suffered too much in the hand of a leadership class that is bereft of ideas.
Okay.
Okay. Now, speaking about what you just said now, do you not think that the law should look into age, qualification, and health when it comes to campaigning for gubernatorial or presidential election?
But thank God, the not too young,
Which is yet to be assented.
Yes, but at least if the mere fact that it was even considered,
Okay.
was even considered, you know, it was like you cut off an entire energetic, creative, resourceful segment of your society. Let me tell you this. Let me explain. You know, I was on a platform. I told people, I said, the greatest problem of the political class is that they don't even understand that politics is called political science. And science is about formula. It's about predictability. It's about order. It's about certainty. That is, if you understand it, there are three segments of people in the society. You have the children, you have the youths, the workers, the productive segment, and you have the senior citizens who have left their productive age. Of these three, the only most productive one are the youth. The children consume, they don't produce. The elders, the senior citizens, they are beyond their productive years. They also consume because they are entitled to be taken care of after serving the nation. So the most productive sector are the youths and the workers. And what an intelligent nation does is to focus resources on that product by kitting them, by giving them skill, by training them so that they can be more productive. Why? They are shouldering the responsibility of the three segments of the society. They need to produce for themselves, produce for the children that consume and don't produce, and sustain the elders, the citizens, senior citizens, who are beyond their productive age. So, not even involving them in the democratic process, in the process of governance in the first instance, to make laws affecting their the segment, because they are the one that will be the most productive segment of the society. So when they are isolated from policies and programs, they are disconnected, and their talent and potential can never find bearing. So they will be able to create an enabling environment to give expression to their talent, because among them you have Mike Zuckerbergs, you have the Google founders, you have the Dangotes, you have the $10. But when they are not even in the scheme of things, how do they create an enabling environment? Because they understand the talent and the potential that they carry. And so they need that environment to bring out their talent and their potential. So I'm glad that, and I also hope that that law will scale through. So that we get to a time a 35-year-old person should be contesting for the presidency of this nation, so that he can bring his vibrant ideas, creative ideas, and passion to drive a nation. Most of the political class, the honest with that, they've expired.
Okay.
They no longer have the energy to drive. It requires both intellectual and physical energy to drive a nation. Even thinking itself requires some amount of energy and passion.
Okay, just to digress a bit, if you're saying that we should look at youth taking over, and then probably this is more like a succession plan now.
Yeah.
Do you not think that we have to look critically into our education system, because some of the kind of youths we churn out are not fit for this position?
See, very simple. Very simple. I don't know why you have an educational system that is not constantly being reviewed. Somebody said, look, the world is changing. The change is so monumental that most knowledge you acquire in your 100 level, by the time you are getting to 400 and 500 level in the university system, some of them are already becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
So what we need to have done over the years was to have stated that probably our curriculum should constantly be reviewed every 5 years to make it globally compliant. And I also said one day on a platform, sometimes they said the graduates we are churning out are not fitting into the marketplace. I said because those governing us are not dynamic enough to respond to the changes. You as a governor, what are you supposed to do? You as a president, what are you supposed to do? You ought to be a midwife. The private sector and those who make use of the product, the graduates, are complaining that the graduate lacks certain skill. What are you supposed to do as an umpire? You bring the tertiary institutions on the one hand, and bring those who use the graduates, private sector, manufacturers, and you bring them on the other hand. You look at the private sector, ask them a question. What kind of graduates do you want us to produce for you? Oh, we want graduate that has this skill, this skill, this skill. Then you turn to the tertiary institutions. Did you hear the end users of your product are complaining that the product you are churning out are not fitting into the marketplace? Have you taken down the kind of features they are looking for in those graduates? Then you go back and tinker with your curriculum and incorporate those skills so that the graduates that you'll be producing in the next 4 or 5 years will have those skills to fit into the market. Because even as of today, if you ask the private sector, they will tell you there are jobs there.
All right.
The jobs are being filled by graduates from universities abroad because they said the homegrown graduates do not have the requisite skill.
All right, thank you. Okay, Barrister Ahmed, so don't completely tinker away from what we're discussing. Let's just take 1 or 2 more comments so we could just conclude. More kudos to the National Assembly with this. The political tsunami of the present administration will not repeat itself. I'm fully in support. Okay, this is just the right change that democracy needs, but will our unpopular politicians